Yeah, you can pause the recording.
There we go. So welcome, everybody. This is our session 2. Zoe Calloway is with us from Tax Foundation, all the way from Delaware. Thank goodness, or at her lunch hours. So we appreciate doing that. Zoe and I were chatting just a minute before how fun it is. She is a tiny state. We have a large geographical, but some commonality between our 2 states. So Zoe's in charge of education and outreach with their group. And is here to share about the TaxEDU, I believe, and some of the other information. So I don't want to take up too much of her time. Zoe, I'll turn it over to you. I'll watch chat and get things to you. For the rest of us, I'll drop in the attendance in about 20 minutes and then the survey near the end. Right. So Zoe, it's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share this presentation that I have for you today. All right. So thank you for picking this session to join today. We greatly appreciate it. And sorry about that. I look forward to speaking to you more about a more niche area of financial literacy, which is tax literacy. But even though it might be overlooked, it is not unimportant. So I work as manager of education and outreach for the Tax Foundation. We're based in DC. The Tax Foundation is the nation's leading tax policy think tank. We are nonpartisan. All of our educational material is nonpartisan and apolitical, so it's easy to fit into any lesson that you're looking to use. And all of it is free. We've been around since 1937, and education has been the backbone of all of Tax Foundation's work since the beginning. In 2020, they decided to expand this into a more focused educational mission. And in 2021, I joined to help start TaxEDU. And so that's what we'll be covering today. And thank you for spending your Saturday doing this. I know the teachers have a lot on their plate, and I really appreciate you taking extra time to learn more about things that you can work into your lessons. So I've covered this. So like I said, education is the background. And the reason that is because we're looking to improve lives and the economy through better tax policy. That's based on our 4 principles of sound tax policy, which is simplicity, transparency, stability, and neutrality. If we have these things, then we can maximize revenues while minimizing negative economic harm and hurting those who tax policy can harm the most, which might be lower income individuals or other minority groups. So, like I said, it's not just about growing the economy or raising revenue, it's also about making people better off. So we work to do that through better tax policy and now through TaxEDU through education for students, educators, general taxpayers, and legislative staff as well at the state and federal levels. We have 3 tax policy centers, so we're not just focused on what you're thinking of with the current tax season of filing this horrible federal income tax and dealing with that. We also do state tax policy, which covers local and global tax policy as well, which is quite complicated. So I will not get into that with you today. It's even worse than filing stuff with the IRS. So TaxEDU combines the best aspects of cutting edge and traditional educational platforms. And this is so that we can inform the debate, enable deeper understanding, and influence tax policy. And you can see that in our broad audience. The reason that we have such a broad audience that I mentioned before is because most people don't really understand tax policy because it's just so complex. And that even goes to legislators. So that's something that we're looking to change. And a big part of that is getting in early with high school students and college students as they start to file taxes, start to purchase things and see a sales tax if they're in a state that has a sales tax, to better understand their financial decision making and how these taxes might influence that. So we have tools for you teachers. I'll focus on that today to bring into your classroom, but everything on our platform can be used for personal financial literacy education as well. Like I said, taxes can be complicated, and I even have learned stuff that I had no idea about before joining Tax Foundation. So it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, but once you learn, it can definitely change what you think. And I'll get into the specific topic later, but a great example is I have a master's in public policy where I focused on fiscal policy, and I did not know until joining Tax Foundation how our federal tax brackets really worked. And that's something that we've been working to educate people on, because the more that we've done outreach, the more we understand there's a huge misconception about this, and it impacts people's financial decision making, as well as, jobs that they take, where they live. And they might make different decisions that impact their life if they had a better understanding of how the bracket system actually works. And like I said, we'll go deeper into that later, but it's just one of those things where it's complicated. We don't like talking about it. We don't like thinking about it, but very important, especially when it comes to financial literacy. So the key roles that it plays actually touch on a lot of the big areas of financial literacy. So taxes impact your earning, where you decide to work, if you decide to take a promotion, savings and investment, and purchasing as well. So you can see this through payroll and income taxes. You can see this through how tax brackets work and the decision-making for your work, savings and investments. There's taxes on retirement plans, and there's retirement plans that are tax-free. You can have capital gains taxes on realizing gains from investments, and purchasing as well through sales taxes, excise taxes, gross receipts taxes, and more. It's like everywhere you have money involved, taxes are pretty much involved too. So that's why we're here to educate on that aspect of financial literacy as well. And we're also a national partner of Jumpstart Coalition. I'm not sure if any of you have done any work with them or used their materials, but I would like to shout them out because it is Financial Literacy Month. We have our resources in their clearinghouse, but I highly recommend going and checking out their entire clearinghouse for more financial literacy resources as well. So how can you add this into a FinLit lesson? It already covers a lot. Financial literacy is so broad, and it's hard to connect with students who are just dealing with money. I understand that. I was an education major for a long time myself, and if they don't have the building blocks, you're not going to be able to connect with them on how this matters to their life, or actually educate if there's not a foundation to grow upon. So what we do here is provide that foundation and the steps beyond to grow on. So financial literacy, you're starting, maybe at base level with middle school and high school students. Like, how does your money work? How should you be thinking about it as you go forward with getting a job, saving, investing, purchasing things, and taxes play a role in all of that too. So we offer resources that can take it as in-depth as you want or as light as you want. But it is important to include taxes in financial literacy 100%. It can completely change your decision-making, whether you understand the tax implications or not. So ways to do that are through explainer videos, which are under 2 minutes long. They're animated, they're really quick. That could be popped into a lesson quite easily, depending on what the lesson centers around. Primers as well. So we offer 7 primers that you can see here as an example, the common tax questions answered. Great way to start is, they might have a misconception about taxes. Like maybe they've heard the rhetoric that lower taxes increase more revenue. Well, maybe that's a myth, and maybe that's something that could be covered. Probably not in a financial literacy course, but there's other decision-making based information as well in here. Like, is there a law that requires us to pay an income tax? Maybe you have some student that thinks they know something that they could, dodge their income tax and get around it, but it's important to educate them that that's maybe not the best idea. We have case studies as well for classroom discussion. We have a podcast if students are interested in taxes and what's going on in tax policy, and a glossary as well. I would say for personal education and to incorporate into a lesson the easiest, our glossary is perfect. If there's a tax term that you're covering and you're looking for a great digestible piece of information regarding that, I would hit up our glossary. Not only is it short and easy to understand while being comprehensive, it's also linked to our Tax Foundation reports and blogs that are around the topic as well. So that way, if you're interested in this and you want students to do more independent learning on something, it's very easy for them to access the glossary term and then click through and dive deeper, come back and have a robust conversation in class, and tie that into other financial literacy discussions. So that's what we offer. And I do want to say that it's all free. I know I've heard from a lot of teachers at other events that some material is not free, and that makes it more complicated to incorporate this into your classroom. Everything we offer is completely free and always will be, and is ready to download on the website. And we want to keep it that way because we do think taxes are so important to include. in your lessons, and that you deserve to have free resources that you don't have to pay out of pocket for or beg a district for extra money for that. So that's just some of what we offer, and they cover such a wide range of topics that whether you're just touching on it in work or just in purchasing, there's stuff for anything that you're looking to include. Next, I'd like to show you the video. So this touches on what I had said before, where I didn't even know how the brackets worked. Most of the people I've talked to have not understood how they truly work. If the chat's open, I'd love for a second for people to drop in an answer of how do you think that your income is taxed based on your federal income tax brackets in our graduated rate system?
Zoe, the chat is open, so folks feel free to jump in there.
And it's okay to be wrong, because again, it's pretty complicated. Okay, yes, Christina, the question is, how do you think the federal income tax brackets actually apply to your income to create your tax rate that you face during tax season? Yep, there are tiers. Now, are the tiers, if you fall, say, in the 22% bracket, does that apply to all of your income? Perfect. So that's exactly right. Thank you, Hector. It goes by the different pockets that they fall into. And I've even had friends myself who have said, I got this raise and I'm so happy, but it's bumped me into a new tax bracket. I feel like I've lost out here. And I've been able to say, hey, that's not the case. It's actually still great news. Whatever you were making before is still taxed at that same rate. It's only your new income that falls in that new bracket that's taxed at this new rate. And Vox does have a good video on this. That's where I got the pockets term from. I would say check that out. We have a video here as well that I'll play for you now, which is just an example of our explainer videos that we have on multiple different topics.
Pop quiz. Do you know what tax bracket you're in? If you answered it depends, well, you're right, because parts of your income are probably taxed at different rates. Say you have $50,000 in taxable income. Today, that dollar amount lands within the 22% bracket. But that doesn't mean you pay that rate on the full $50,000. Let's explain. In the US, your federal income tax is calculated through a progressive graduated rate system. Basically, if you make more, you're taxed more. Right now, we have 7 tax brackets. Each bracket covers a range of taxable income, and the rate for each bracket gets progressively higher. Any income within the range of the first bracket is taxed at that rate. The next dollar you earn over the first bracket falls into the second bracket, and only those additional dollars within that range are taxed at the new rate. This continues as your taxable income increases. So in our $50,000 example, this much gets taxed at 10%, only this much gets taxed at 12%, and only this much gets taxed at 22%. As you can see, whatever your top tax rate is, it doesn't apply to all of your taxable income, just the portion that falls into your highest bracket. When we understand how brackets work, we can better understand the tax impact of picking up a second job, putting in overtime, or any other ways we might increase our income.
All right, so that's an example of our video. We try to make it, again, as clear as possible. This is designed for middle and high school students and maybe some lower level college courses as well. But that's easy to just plug right into a lesson if you're already covering income and decision making around that for financial literacy. Here's a resource that takes 2 minutes to incorporate and is ready to go and free to download. And all of our videos, we do have a corporate series. They're marketed a little bit differently, but all of our TaxEDU educational videos are designed at this level and this comprehension level to work into your classroom. So we do try to make it as easy as possible, not just for the students to understand, but for you to access and incorporate. And I think it's really important. So this could fit into a number of different lessons. This video specifically probably best with income this time of year. Great time to talk to students about this is maybe they're filing taxes for the first time. And, you can get into other stuff like don't be excited about your refund. A large refund is actually a bad thing. It means you were overtaxed through the year. You gave an interest-free loan to the government that you could have used yourself and made money off of. And that's a great financial literacy conversation to have as well. So all of this, type of information is again housed on TaxEDU. And let me. I'm having an issue here for a second. Hold on. There we go.
Pop quiz.
Oh my
Do
goodness.
you know what tax bracket?
Sorry about this. Okay, so the next thing is if you have the time and you are interested to do an entire lesson plan, we offer complete lesson plans as well. Each one of these is based off of a primer that we already have, comes with an assessment and an assessment key. So they tie into Common Core standards, they fit an objective, and they have, some malleability for you guys in here, but also they're kind of structured around what are the key things to take away from this. These are released periodically, again, are free to use. Some have videos accompanying them as well, and eventually all of our lesson plans will have videos to go along with them. So this is a complete lesson plug and play that saves you 1 out of 180 lessons that you'll have to do for the year for financial literacy if you're teaching for the whole year. These center around the 3 basic tax types, which is another video that we have too, which is just about the basics. There's taxes on what you earn, what you buy, and what you own, and you can talk about that in a more comprehensive financial literacy lesson. There's also a lesson plan on not all taxes are created equal, which will have a video coming out to accompany this summer. And there's another one on average versus marginal tax rates. So that kind of ties into the brackets video we watched as well, which kind of gets into marginal tax rates without using the complicated terms. But if you want to go more in depth with your students, there's all of that information as well. So this is if, you think taxes are really important in financial literacy, you want to do a whole lesson, that's available too. And we're always looking for feedback. So you can share that directly with me. If there's something that you think would be really useful for a complete lesson or for a resource, we're happy to incorporate that into our production plan because we're here to make sure that you guys have the resources that you need to educate. So like I said, these are 60 to 90-minute lessons. There's a little bit of, wiggle room in these lessons for you to make it fit for your classroom, but they are available on our website. I do want to, before I, wrap this up and open up for questions, say that TaxEDU itself might be the educational platform, but again, Tax Foundation as a whole is based in education. A lot of our material might be a little higher level than for a high school course because we are writing to legislators most of the time. But there are resources on other parts of the website that I'd really like to highlight that are perfect for those building blocks and connecting your student to the real world and their life to give meaning and value to this lesson that they can pinpoint. And a great resource for that is our state tax maps from our state team. We release them periodically and they're updated annually. These are maps that show, for almost any tax you could think of and interact with that a student would have heard of. They can see what that tax rate is in their state, and then you can compare that with neighboring states and give them that real world example of, look, our sales tax here is 6.3%, our neighboring state is 4%. How do you think that might impact financial decision making if you were to live closer to the border between these 2 states and things like that? So it's easy for them to see and say, yeah, I went to buy an Arizona tea the other day that's supposed to be 99 cents and it came up to like 103. What's up with that? That's horrible. Like this extra money, I only had $1 in my pocket. And you can say, well, here you do have to pay the tax on that. But if you went to this other state that doesn't have a sales tax, then that $1 would have bought you the whole thing. And how does that impact your financial decision making? So just stuff like that. We do have other resources. So I encourage you to explore the whole website. Like I said, most of it's higher level, but all of it's educational and very important for financial literacy. As you move forward, through all levels of your courses through this, I think there is a tax angle on most of it because where there's money, there's usually a tax. And even if you're getting into any history stuff, if you teach other courses in social sciences, all of this information ties into history, civics, economics as well. And we have resources that fit into all of that too. So that's what I have. All of our contact information is listed here. Again, if there's resources we don't have that you would like to see, please reach out to me directly. My email's at the bottom of this screen. I would love to hear from you. And if you're interested in using these resources, if you go to the link that's at the top of this screen, There is a subscribe button for our newsletter. We do not inundate your mailbox. You get enough emails. It's once a month. And it's just to let you know that there's new material that you could incorporate, or, giving an example of a complete lesson that you could talk about surrounding one topic. So that's what I have for you today, and I'm open to taking any questions, comments, etc. that you have about this. Yes, these resources are free from the chat, that question.
Folks, while you're thinking of processing everything that Zoe shared, I will drop in the survey as well, so you have that.
I know that's a lot of information piled together. I'm a fast talker and I don't want to waste your time. If I can give you a little bit of a break between these sessions, it's kind of my goal. But yeah, all of this is free. It always will be free. All ready to download from our website. So just plug and play. That's kind of the goal that we have here for you. Yep, all of our videos are short and sweet like that. The point of that is so that it's easier to incorporate in the lesson. And so, high school students aren't snoozing over taxes, which we obviously are worried about. Taxes are not a sexy topic. But if we keep it short and sweet and explain it as simple as we can, we have a better connection to the student, hopefully, and they might actually take something away from it. The only video we have coming up that would be a little bit longer is the intro video to our history of taxes series. So that wouldn't really fit into financial literacy, but if you teach a history course, that video might get into the 3-minute range, just because there's such a huge connection between history and taxes, and that would be very difficult to fit in under 2 minutes.
Sorry, are you able to see those questions coming up about 180 lessons? And then is there anything relating to taxes in other countries?
Okay, so we don't have 180 lessons. That comment that I made is that there's 180 days in your school year. So to save you from having to make 180 lessons, we offer a few lesson plans that you can plug in. Currently, we have 3 lesson plans. We will have more coming out this summer as I have an intern join me to help me put out more of this material for you guys. So if you're interested in any of the lesson plans that might be coming out, you can go ahead and sign up for that newsletter or follow us on Twitter. And whenever a new resource comes out, you'll either get an email about it, which again, we only send 1 email a month, so we're not going to bug you. And we'll post it on Twitter as well, so you don't have to miss any new resource. And off of that, signing up for the email too, the screen, the way it's set up, you can select other things as well. I'd highly recommend also selecting state tax maps. They come out every other Tuesday, and that way, if there's, a nice interactive map that you could show your students, you'll get the new updated version of the map in your inbox as well. And there are materials related to taxes in other countries. So foundation-wide, a ton of information. We have an entire global team. Again, that might be a little complicated because it's written more for EU lawmakers. However, TaxEDU does have its own resources. So some of that is in the glossary, where if you're wondering about FDII investments or GILTI or multinational corporations, things like that, a VAT tax, which is the Europeans' consumption tax system that they have, then all of that is in like a glossary term that you could share with students. And then if you wanted to get into, it is more complicated, but we have a video on GILTI, which is the global minimum tax proposal and how that would work for multinational corporations. Again, it is a little more complicated, but there is a video on that that boils it down about as easy as you can get when you're talking about a worldwide taxation policy, which just by nature is insanely complicated. But those resources are available, and we will have more coming out. Tax Foundation is actually launching Tax Foundation EU next year, where we will have a separate office in Brussels. So there will be a ton more information coming out, and TaxEDU will have its own EU portion of resources as well when that office is established. Yep. And again, if you guys have personal things that you're looking at too, for your own, financial literacy, well-being, and diving into tax stuff. It is tax season and you're looking for more information. This isn't just for students, it's for you too. It's not all boiled down to a high school level, but you know, this is for average taxpayers as well. We have the answers to a lot of questions. Even at your state level, if you hear of a tax policy going on and you're thinking, what is this and how could it impact my personal financial decision making? We likely will have a blog released on that too. So you can go on the website and search your state. We have state landing pages and you can find all the information there too. So this is a resource for anybody at any level because the nature of taxes, again, is just tough to understand across the board, and we're working to change that.
Any other questions for Zoe? We do have time. The next session is not until 10:35, so if you need a little break, understand. But you can drop them in the chat or come off mute because we're a small group. Thank you, folks. And you do have Zoe's email at the bottom. Sheila has a question for you, Zoe.
Yep, TaxEDU has been around since 2021. Before that, in 2020, it was Tax Basics, which was just our glossary and our principles of sound tax policy. I was brought on in April of 2021 to expand the platform into what it is today. When we shifted into TaxEDU, our umbrella brand for our educational resources. And then we started adding lesson plans, more primers, case studies, video, a podcast, and expanding the glossary to over 100 terms. So it continues to grow. We're still in our growth phase, which is why if you have, you know, anything you're looking for, you can just email me directly. And again, it'll be added to the production schedule because we are here to provide for you. But, you know, the name here, education, discussion, understanding, that's, you know, what we're targeting across the board. And that's resources for students. Discussion is resources for taxpayers, and understanding is for taxpayers. I guess the last two are both for taxpayers and lawmakers. But, you know, resources is for everyone at any level. So we don't have videos for that information for not paying taxes. I would say the closest that we have under TaxEDU is in the common tax questions answered primer. One of the questions is that there's not a law requiring you to pay an income tax. So we do get into that there is a law, what's the background behind that, and that you do have to pay. They do have the legal authority at the federal level to levy that tax since 1913. And then as well, in some of the glossary terms like audit and things like that, we go into some of the processes of what might happen if you don't pay. But in general, that side of taxation and tax policy is not really what we get into with the penalties. We focus more on, you know, this is how taxes work and this is how they could work better and the background behind them, while advocating that you do pay your taxes, but we don't get too much into what the penalties are if you don't. But on that, Tuesday is tax day. So if you have not filed your taxes yet, please, please, please make sure you do that by Tuesday, because that is the deadline, April 18th this year.
I actually used some of your TaxEDU information in my latest All About Taxes module for teachers and sent it out last week. So thank you for the constant update, Zoe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for incorporating that. Yes, we do talk about extensions. So that's in the glossary as well. We have tax extensions and questions like this. This is perfect to go onto the General Tax Foundation website, and you can type in a term, glossary, TaxEDU resources, blogs, all that information will come up. And it's a very easy, self-guided thing. Again, anything that we post on the website, whether it's TaxEDU or Tax Foundation generally, everything is linked. So when you're reading the piece, the glossary terms are linked. You can hover over and it'll give you the definition of a term. We have resources linked on the side and at the bottom and related articles. So it's really easy to dive in deeper to understand what you're looking for. You just have to plug it into the search bar on the website. So it's pretty easy.
Great questions. We appreciate it.
And I'm glad you'll file your taxes tonight. I'm glad I said something about that because I know it's easy to forget the deadline, but we don't want you guys to get any penalties. It can be expensive if you miss the deadline. So good job. As long as it's done by Tuesday, you're good. You're good to go.
I think a lot of people think that if they file the extension, it covers them, but not if they owe money. So I
Yeah.
think you guys do clarify that as well in your materials, which is, I think, very useful information for procrastinators like me.
It's tough and it's nice to just do it and then forget about it. But then when you think about it and you go to the store or something, I mean, you're still dealing with taxes every day. So it never ends. This is just the peak season of thinking about taxes right now.
One little fun fact about the TaxEDU website I found is the fact that you can, look at your state and see how tax friendly you are for businesses. And, every year it can change. So, I think Nevada's kind of moved up in relative to California. As I look at, my child lives in California, and, I see why all the people are moving here from California. It is, moving our prices up higher with housing and such. But, when you look at the tax structures across states, which this resource allows you to do, it's very telling on why so many people are moving to Nevada.
Yes. We do a lot of research through our state team on migration patterns because of taxation, and there is, a correlation. Some groups will say that there's not, but with our data and our model that we use, it seems pretty clear. And there are certain taxes that influence it more than others. Obviously, income taxes and property taxes are big drivers for migration. And again, you can look at that for yourself if you're looking for financial decision making, if you want to move out of Nevada. Not saying that you should. I've never been. I've heard it's nice. But before you go, we have, maps on everything. If you're looking at what income taxes are, sales taxes, excise taxes, vapor taxes, beer and alcohol taxes, property taxes, all that information's on the website. And for property taxes, we actually do it at a county level too, because it can vary that much. So that's really interesting and fun to play with. If you go on the property tax page that's under the state page, you can do the little interactive map and find your county and see the county differences between your property tax rates, which is also great for the classroom because it's probably more relatable depending on where you are in the state to compare county by county rather than, state by state. But like it was mentioned earlier, I'm from Delaware, so it doesn't really matter where you live in Delaware, you're always by another state. So I forget sometimes that that's not the case when you live in states that have actual size to them.
Yeah.
All those big out west states, yes.
Mhm.
They're huge. Some of them are, like some states in the US are the size of the UK, which is hard to wrap my head around, but yeah, I come from a state with 3 counties stacked on top of each other, so can't relate to the out west size thing there. Well, again, thank you guys. And if you're looking for more information for, tax day, financial literacy month, or anything else, newsletter, if you're looking for more updated things, our Twitter, we tweet every day, stuff that you can learn yourself, fun little facts to pop into a lesson, anything like that. But I appreciate you all joining today and thank you for the great questions and, happy upcoming tax day. And don't celebrate that refund if it's big this year. That's not a positive thing, but it feels like one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe, for your time and great information and sharing this with us. Just for everyone's sake, the next session will start at 10:35. So get up, stretch, get a little coffee, get something to eat, and then we'll see everybody at what will be the session 3 starting at 10:35.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe.
Yep. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Don't forget your surveys.